Call the meeting of March 7th, 2017 to order.
The City of San Clemente respects the many people of different faiths who reside here. The City Council historically begins its session with an invocation offered by one of the religious leaders of our community with full appreciation of our shared belief that we are one nation under God. And while the city cannot endorse any particular religion, we respect the religious freedom and freedom of expression of all our citizens to pray as they feel led to pray. This evening's invocation will be given by James Jim Davis, Senior Chaplain of the Orange County Sheriff's Department.
Please stand and remain standing for the invocation given by Councilmember Swartz. Did I say invocation? Sorry, Pledge of Allegiance.
Shall we pray? Our gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful day here in San Clemente. What a blessing to be a part of this community. We pray your blessing upon our city leaders, the business at hand. May we get wisdom from you and guidance, we pray. Bless all of our children and young people in the community and families. Protect and watch over them. And our military, our fire, our deputies, we thank you for your blessings. In your precious name we pray. Amen.
Councilmember Donchak. Councilmember Ham.
Here.
Councilmember Swartz.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown.
Here.
Mayor Ward.
Here.
First item on the agenda is a presentation by Karen Wall, Senior Branch Librarian, concerning library events locally and countywide.
Good evening, everybody. I was asked if I'd like to speak, and of course I would. I'm a librarian. I love the chance to talk at a normal volume. So I'm going to give you a quick recap of what's been going on just in the last 2 weeks of the library, and I've given everybody a packet that has some upcoming events, so you're not going to get dual information. So in the last 2 weeks at the library, the Friends of the Library had their 17th annual Meet the Authors Luncheon. There were over 140 people there, 3 authors, one who is very new, Kim Hooper, her first book, Alex Espinoza, who's done about 2 plus a number of award-winning articles, and Katrina McPherson, who's going on at 20 or 30 or so, all local California people. We've had a wolf discovery and recovery presentation the same day as the Friends of the Authors Luncheon. So we learned about wolves, and particularly native California gray wolves, and how they're doing in repopulating our local communities. We had Brain Boosters, which is a monthly interactive class. Let's keep our brains fit as we age. We had a recycled reads program where we made adorable little animals out of leftover paperback books, because not every book deserves to be kept on the shelf forever. We had our first inaugural monthly Woof Let's Read, where children get to read to therapy dogs in a non-judgmental atmosphere. It was well attended, as well as having 3 dogs to choose from that you could read to. We had our inaugural monthly Throwback Thursday movie. We showed Romancing the Stone. In case you wanted to see it, you missed your opportunity. We had a genealogy and genetics presentation with Dr. Tina Hambuch, who's a scientist and director of pediatrics at Invitae. She talked about DNA, heritage, genealogy, and how they all intersect so that we can learn more about who we are, where we come from. We had one of our 2 monthly adult book groups. The more literary one meets the last Wednesday of every month. And the Friends of the Library had their first Sunday sale, as they do every month. And that was the special stuff. We also had our usual weekly toddler time, preschool story time, after school club, and a bilingual story time, each of which has usually over 50 people attending. So that's the last couple of weeks. Coming up, we have all those usual weekly events, including an inaugural Saturday family film matinee and our mid-month Wicked Wednesday book club that we focus more on horror, noir, and mysteries. We're adding to our large program and presentations with a focus upcoming on STEAM program. Many people are familiar with STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math. We add the A in there. It stands for arts. So we're doing all of that, plus the arts, because we can't lose the arts. For kids and teens, that's where we focus our additional programming. For adults and families, we have a rotating schedule of authors, lectures, music or arts, crafts, and hands-on, because we just can't fit everything in all the time. And we're well into our program planning for summer reading program, which starts this summer on June 19th and runs for at least 7 or 8 weeks. The theme is reading by design, so you can see where your head goes with that. We at the library have a mission of empowering and enriching our communities, and we feel like we do it by making both small and large connections every day. Some of those connections that we make locally will include upcoming programs this month. With the VFW, we're showing a film called The Lioness, which is a documentary on women in combat, and we'll have some of our local female veterans talking to us and sharing after the movie. We're doing an inaugural program with the Capistrano Unified School District Visual and Performing Arts Department, and we will have a moderated talk with one of the directors of South Coast Repertory Theater coming and talking to us, mostly for adults, even though it's Capo School District, on programs, how they set their program for the theater and what it takes to get a whole program put together, write the plays, how you do all of that. And we, of course, are continuing our Career Online program, which is a state-funded grant that our friends at the library managed to get matching funds to get an accredited high school diploma from an online program. Not a GED, but accredited high school diploma, and then some career planning as well. I believe there are still, as of last week, 4 spaces available for California residents only, Orange County residents specifically, and even more specifically, San Clemente residents or people who don't live here but do work in town. So if you know anybody who is looking to get their diploma, please send them to the library. We'd be very happy to talk to them more about it and get them started. They can typically complete in as little as 4 months, depending upon how much they've done. And we're also system-wide. We're not just a city. We work for the city, but we're county library, so we've got a lot of stuff going on county-wise. I don't know if anybody's noticed or checked OC Stories lately. It's another grant that the library system has gotten. It makes photos, connections, photos and history videos for local Orange County things of significance. The original 1982 video, as well as an interview with former Mayor Candy Haggard and former branch manager Candy Haggard, is on the ocstories.com website. You can hear her talking about the opening of the library in 1982 at its current location. So it was an even bigger event than our remodeling and reopening. It was huge. The entire Marine Corps band was there playing. It's a hoot to watch, and not just for the outfits from the 80s. We've also got 2017 is our designated year of reading. February was unsurprisingly romance month, but this month, if you've got any options and you don't know what to read, I've included bookmarks in your packet. March is book to film. So read a book and then maybe watch the film, maybe even make it down to the library to watch it. We've got Ancestry at the library, ancestry.com. We're doing a lot of genealogy programs. We had one last week that you just missed, but there's probably going to be more coming up. We've got Literary Orange coming up the first week of the month. I included nothing in your packets because for the first time it's sold out 2 months before the event. And that's a full day of authors and panel discussions, breakfast, lunch, snacks in the afternoon, and it's up in Newport, and it's quite big. We've now ever sold out before the event, much less a month and a half before the event. And we are finishing up next month no May, with the National Endowment for the Arts, the NEA Big Read. For the last year, the system has been working with In the Time of the Butterflies by Julia Alvarez, and we are finishing up. We've done a book club, we've done several events, and we're finishing up this weekend with a Cookies and Canvas program where we'll be painting butterfly masterpieces. If you signed up, you can't come to that one either because it booked out in the last week. So there's lots going on you don't have to sign up for, and lots going on that you can sign up for. And we're very happy to be going gangbusters. We can't keep people from coming through the doors. It's a good feeling. Thank you very much for your time.
I have a question.
Absolutely.
Have you started anything in the works for February 2018 and our celebration on San Clemente Day?
I have not for 2018. I'm up to about August, so I'll get started on February 2018.
Yeah,
And if
that
anybody's
big,
got
yeah.
any good ideas, send them on my way. My email and everything is in there too.
So
And we're
building
looking
on
as
that
well for
comment-
might be a great time for one book for the whole town to read, to prep and do some celebrations around that time.
That's
if
a
not
great idea.
sooner.
The other thing is your Friends of the Library lunch falls on that Saturday every year, and wouldn't it be great to have it hosted back in town?
And I will tell
And
you,
send the-
they have been diligently searching. The only reason we have done, the Friends of the Library have done their luncheon outside of town is because they haven't been able to find a venue large enough to accommodate everybody. We were down a little bit this year, and so usually 150 is about the magic number. They are hoping very much and are working to bring it back into town
To
for next
Councilman
year.
Swartz's point, it would be
So,
great
yeah.
because that. would be
Absolutely. I will remind them of the connection because it would be great, and they want to come back to town, and it's one of the things that's been mentioned by people. I would love to not have to drive on a Saturday up to Mission Viejo in the middle of the day to go to a luncheon. So,
And then I was going to ask, I guess if I could ask the city clerk to communicate, could we get a PSA that's running that, because all that great information you just shared with us, it would be great to have your website and maybe a shout out on what some of the great activities are that maybe you could help with that, but just
I
get
will
something
be
that
more than
runs.
happy if anything sounds good that you think would be marvelous. I'll shoot you over
Yeah.
stuff. We can just add you to the list of things that we shoot out every week to all over the place.
Yeah, and then just run that in
And
the
tell
cycle.
me what format you
Yeah.
want, because, yeah, we do the same thing. We've got our screen behind our service desk, and we've got mostly PDFs, whatever, but yeah, we're showing stuff for the Cabrillo Playhouse, and we've got for anything that's going on locally. I think we've got the Panhay celebration just went up, as well as our things for our in-house for the library, San Clemente, as well as the county system, and then we're also doing stuff that are local events for things that are going on, so that we can cross-purpose. Absolutely thrilled.
Because I believe Karen's
Yeah.
branch leads the county on new library cards.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I will say I took a quick look at our stats for the last month just this morning, or late this afternoon when they finally posted. And while the county for the year to date, our circulation at our branch is up about 6%. The system is up for about 3.5% this year to date. Our program attendance is up 11% to date. The systems is down 6%, and we're up 35% in programs. The system overall is down about 3%. So not just library cards, Lori. But yeah, I personally issued 4 of them in the 1 hour that I did on the desk this afternoon. I didn't do any this morning, but I issued 4. Alan did 3. Jessica came on desk after me and got slammed with a family that was 2 or 3 right away too. So yeah, still about a dozen a day. Brand new cards. People never had them. So, thank you very much for your time.
Next is a presentation by San Clemente High School student Brigham Merity concerning campus activities.
I am alone today. Okay, so San Clemente this month was a little slow, but starting out we had, excuse me, Blue Ribbon Week, and that was really cool because most of our events are run by ASB, but this was actually run by Cool to Be Kind Club, a club at our school, and they ran the whole week, all the events, so it was cool to see. A lot of times the events that we run, they pull a lot of our friends and the friends of those people, but having a club outside of ASB, we had a lot of attendance from other people participating in these events. One of the biggest events of the week was they had a compliment wall, and they just had a giant poster out in front of the library, and everyone just came and wrote something kind about someone and posted it on the wall, and it was really cool. Just like they would read it out loud, different comments, and you know, we don't really get that kind of thing every day, so just like a small little thing like that goes a long way, and it was a really cool week. Next, we had Multicultural Week, and that was cool too, because we have a lot of cultures on our campus, and to be able to celebrate each one of those was awesome. So we had like activities each day that were for different cultures, and then the biggest one, we do this yearly, and every year the biggest one is the food fair, and same thing, clubs sign up for this, and then they pick a culture and make the food for it. And the biggest one you see on the right was France, I think, and they were making crepes, so everyone loves a good crepe. But yeah, that was a really cool week too. And because it was so slow this month, I decided to throw this in here. This is my best friend, Jack Szabo, and he was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma the end of his junior year. So the whole summer and the first half of this year, he was going through treatments and everything, and finally got healthy enough to come to school, and last Monday was his first day back, so it was really cool to be able to celebrate his recovery, and just seeing his excitement in coming back to school. It shows like how great our school is when kids really want to be there, and seeing not only like him be happy, but everyone else around him are like, our friend is back. So yeah, that was really cool, and that's it for this month. So
What's
thank
his
you.
prognosis? Is he cancer free?
He's cancer free.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Thank you.
And he's looking legit with that
Yes,
haircut, by the way.
yeah.
The next item is a presentation by Samantha Thomas, Provisional Recreation Manager, concerning the city's first annual San Clemente Day celebrations.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm Samantha Thomas, Provisional Recreation Manager. I am here to talk about San Clemente Day 2017. I am displaying the hats that were for sale on this wonderful day. So this was our inaugural San Clemente Day celebration this year. And we did a couple things, soft opening as we talked about previously. And we offered free swim at both of the Ole Hansen Beach Club and the San Clemente Aquatic Center facility. We saw about 30 participants come out for rec swim, and including Councilmember Brown. Thank you for coming with your family. So the weather was a little cold. You know, the end of February can do that to us a little bit. But we had good turnout for rec swim. We saw about 20 patrons visit the Ole Hansen Beach Club. We did end up selling apparel as well. You can see some of our staff are modeling the t-shirts and the tank tops that were for sale, as well as the flag. That's it. So we have a couple things still for sale at the Aquatic Center, including the hats. The hats are $18, as well as our t-shirts are 10, our tank tops are 10, and then we are selling the flags now extended at the Aquatic Center and the Ole Hansen Beach Club. They were previously available at the golf course. We've kind of moved up and extended our services outward, and we're getting really good response from the public. We get people, some of our water aerobics ladies love to come by in the morning at the Aquatic Center and pick up some of that gear. So we hope to continue this effort through the summer and look to see how else we can expand on our apparel and kind of our San Clemente pride. little background on the crest, because I know that has come up as well. So this crest was actually the crest that Ole Hansen used as he moved into San Clemente and tried to sell the land and get property owners down here to visit San Clemente. It was on all of his stationery as he sent out letters and trying to draw people here. So that's kind of how it started, and we're going to bring it back in honor of San Clemente. Any questions?
No, I just have a comment. Thank you so much for everyone that worked on it. The lifeguards were so fun. I was going to make a suggestion. They had out a DJ. Somebody was on iPod just out there playing music right next to the pool. And my girls loved that part of it because they were playing fun songs and everything. So I'd like to recommend, I don't know if on Saturdays you guys can roll out those speakers and put on some music during the kids' time.
Yeah.
But that was fun. I think the lifeguards actually enjoyed that too because they weren't just sitting there the whole time.
It was a different face for our lifeguards. I think they enjoyed it.
It was fun. They had a lot of
Yeah.
personality. The kids
Good.
enjoyed it. They were playing games. It was awesome. Everyone did a great job. Really impressed with everyone who's involved with that. We're coming up, just for the council, so we're coming up on our 90th anniversary as a city this next February. And I sent a picture to Laura. I hope she can pull that up. Bob Baker dropped this off. This is a poster from the 60th anniversary of San Clemente from 1988. Now, if that poster doesn't say to you 80s, I don't know if you ever lived through the 80s, because there is everything about that says 1980s to me. But one of the things that's interesting about it is that's a Rick Delaney picture that's incorporated in that, and they look. I always say that wrong. They put that picture in the middle there, and then they also have, you see the Celebrate 60 in the poster. So I'd like to just to kind of throw this out to the council, that as we come closer to the 90th, that we may put together a small working group along with Samantha and get folks around it that we can really celebrate the 90th anniversary of our city in style with some cool things like this, and then really have take what we did and build on it this year, so we can have a real splash this next year for San Clemente Day. Because you know what, something about it is that we just live in a place that's worth celebrating.
Absolutely.
And so I really appreciated the good work of the BPNR crew and all the lifeguards and everyone that made that such a fun day. It was a great start to hopefully a tradition that will outlive us all.
Rick, by the way, lives about 3 doors up from me, so if you want me to talk to him about getting that original, I can do that.
No, you know what? I actually would love this. It's good to know. I'd like to maybe suggest that we, I may want to actually put maybe a contest together, like as part of maybe this next year, that we actually have everyone submit paintings to be on the 90th anniversary of the capture of San Clemente.
What
So,
about photographs also? Not
I
just
don't
a
know.
painting, but a great photograph.
We'll
At
leave
least
that.
let him submit.
We'll leave that to city staff side, but I think it would be great to celebrate that way, and there's different ways we can do it. So I just want to throw that out there. I would love to see going forward that we are able to make this day really unique and special, and we could all enjoy it, and maybe have cool posters and things out there too. So thank you very much, Samantha. Appreciate all the good work.
Thank
you've
you
done.
very much.
Members of the audience who wish to address council on matters that are within the jurisdiction of the City of San Clemente, but not separately listed on the agenda, may do so during the oral communications portion of the meeting. A total time limitation of 30 minutes is allocated for oral communications part 1, with each speaker being allotted 3 minutes, which to give his or her presentation. We do have some cards in that order.
In this
requested.
order?
They requested that order.
Okay. All right. I'm going to call up 3 people at a time. Oral communications is 3 minutes. First speaker is Lori Hedrick. Next speaker is Steve Netherby. And the third speaker is Alan Corson. Well, followed by Ed Schlegel. I might as well put you in there. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Lori Hedrick on behalf of San Clemente Green. San Onofre Nuclear Generating Station had the worst safety record in the nation. In 2012, you here? Okay. Start over. My time's ticking. In 2012, after Edison ignored warnings from their own engineers, a steam generator leaked an unknown amount of radiation into our community. For the next year, they fought hard to restart the defective nuclear reactor without even fixing it first, to avoid going through a costly relicensing procedure. In 2013, they finally gave up, realizing they would never be able to get approval. Now they plan to bury 89 times more radioactive waste than was released in the Chernobyl accident on our shoreline. They are using temporary storage containers that can't be monitored or repaired if they crack. The CEO of the company making these half-inch canisters admitted publicly that cracking is a known problem in marine environments like ours, and that even a microscopic crack will emit millions of curies of deadly radiation. We get criticized for repeatedly asking the same questions and told that we should just trust the experts. Our questions often get put off indefinitely or completely ignored. That is why we are here tonight, to ask you to help us pressure Edison for written responses to our concerns in a timely manner. We shouldn't have to wait until the next CEP meeting 3 months from now. Those questions will be presented by the next 3 speakers following me so that you and our community at large will be aware of these threats to our safety, possessions, and property. Although we are not experts, there are obvious reasons for our concerns. For instance, it seems like they shouldn't be putting nuclear waste behind a crumbling seawall inches above the rising sea level, 100 feet from the ocean in a tsunami zone. We are told by Edison's experts that we have nothing to fear from an earthquake that exceeds the design limits of the plant. They say that a local tsunami is unlikely, when we can see from Google Earth that there is a steep ledge 5 miles offshore that is over 2,000 feet tall, 25 miles long, and sits on a fault line that is stronger than previously assumed. This haphazard plan is already well underway, but it is still not too late to make some seriously needed improvements. For one thing, we need to insist on keeping the spent fuel pools intact until the last waste canister has been removed, because that is the only way to deal with canisters that are leaking. Engineers at the plant have tipped us off that some of these canisters may have been improperly loaded, making it even more likely to need the pools, yet Edison plans to destroy them after they are emptied. Our community needs to stand together for better solutions that are vetted by independent experts who are not on Edison's payroll or receiving their grants. Too much is at stake for us to blindly trust those who have so clearly put us at risk in the past. We ask you to stand with us for detailed answers for our questions in writing and with supporting documents. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. My name is Steve Netherby. I've been living in our beautiful town in denial of the existential threats posed by songs for the last 43 years, and I have some comments and questions to add to what Lori said. If an earthquake or tsunami damages the pools or pumps, it may only be a matter of hours before unprotected fuel assemblies overheat to the point where their zirconium cladding bursts into a fire that can't be extinguished with water. How long would it take to put out such a fire? How much radiation could be released in a worst-case scenario? How would you put it out? Do you have the capability on site now to deal with such an event? The Newport-Inglewood Fault appears to be connected to the Rose Canyon Fault coming up from San Diego. It seems that the likely breaking point is right at San Onofre, following the contours of an underwater ledge that is over 2,000 feet tall and 25 miles long. How large could the wave be from that much displacement if there was an underwater landslide? How long would it take to reach San Onofre? How long can dry cast survive being submerged? Once breached, would the seawall actually keep the site submerged longer? Would backup systems for spent fuel pools be able to survive such an event? How long overdue is this area for having the next big earthquake or tsunami? When we discovered that the USGS was now predicting the next big quake could easily exceed the 7.0 magnitude design limitations of songs, Edison suddenly stopped referring to the Richter scale. Now they tell us that what the plant can withstand in peak ground acceleration, but it's not clear how it compares to the Richter scale. If new evidence points to even a remote possibility that there could be a catastrophic nuclear event coming from the long overdue earthquake, shouldn't Edison's plan have to take that into account right now? If the Songs facility was designed to withstand a 7.0, but could get hit with at least an 8.0, 10 times larger but over 30 times stronger, is the public expected to believe that we are within safe limits just because the threat is now being expressed in terms of peak ground force? Can a slip fault cause an underwater landslide just as easily as a thrust fault? Could a major earthquake cause the partially buried dry cast to shift at their midpoint, resulting in them being lodged in a way that makes them irretrievable? What would be the eventual impact on Southern California if these casts can't be removed before they begin to fail? How severe would the impact be on our property values if there was any kind of serious problem at San Onofre, and how would we be compensated? Could Dr. Driscoll explain what he thinks went wrong when other seismologists grossly underestimated the potential for the tsunami that resulted in the ongoing meltdown in Fukushima? Thank you.
Good evening. Songs has the worst safety record in the nation and had many close calls, including the leak that finally ended operations at the plant. Whistleblowers accurately predicted such things, and even with the plant shut down, still expressed concerns over improper handling of spent fuel. One high-ranking employee recently claimed that spent fuel assemblies, thought to be intact, may have experienced damage before being loaded into dry casks. What would be the impact of an improperly loaded cask having a nuclear reaction in dry storage? How would that be dealt with? Why should fuel pools be destroyed as soon as they're empty instead of when the last of the nuclear waste is actually relocated, making it possible to reload a damaged container if needed? In 2012, there was an unsolved case of sabotage to backup generators. In the future, thousands of new employees will have access to this prime terrorist target. What came of the sabotage investigation? What's being done to screen employees that may wish to do us harm? Why is there no longer a no-fly zone at Songs? Do we have the ability to shoot down an airplane that suddenly veers towards Songs? Are critical security systems, communication devices, pumps, control valves adequately protected from cyber attacks? Dry casks currently in use were only designed to be temporary nuclear waste containers. Now that there is nowhere to take the waste after 50 years of trying, we're told that they are good for 100 years or longer, if needed. Yet half-inch thick stainless steel canisters can crack in as few as 17 years, and the countdown has already begun in some casks. Dr. Chris Singh, CEO of Holtec, admits they're known to crack and that there's no practical way to repair them. They could only be placed in a larger cask as a temporary solution. He says even a microscopic crack can emit millions of curies of deadly radiation, and there is no advanced warning capabilities. How can we expect other communities to accept these hot potatoes when we're not even sure they're safe to move? We currently don't have the resources on site to transfer a leaking cask into a larger cask. Will current canisters need to be reloaded into better canisters before they could be safely relocated? Shouldn't we be building a robust facility on site to reload canisters and to prevent leaks from getting into the environment while also preventing terrorist attack? Can't we design better canisters that can be inspected, repaired, and more easily transported in smaller, cooler, less conspicuous loads? Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Ed Schlegel. Toxic chemicals will be used in the decommissioning of Songs. In a year 2000 report from the California Regional Water Quality Control Board, the acceptable amounts of pollution can be released into the ocean from Songs can be seen on the table in the slideshow. Do tables like these actually mean that it is okay to release up to 3,500 pounds of arsenic in a single day, or daily dumping of up to 480 pounds of cyanide? Will the public be notified before these kinds of chemicals are discharged into our waters? Will radioactive waste also be discharged? What does ASCON and Energy Solutions anticipate being released into our environment during decommissioning, and what is being done to minimize it? How does this future contamination get figured into the decision on whether or not to remove the huge pipes that will be carrying these contaminants out to sea? Do nuclear power plants built on the banks of rivers have to meet higher standards and restrictions due to higher concentrations in a smaller body of water? Consent-based siting is a much improved method for selecting sites where communities will have to approve a plan before they accept nuclear waste for interim term storage. However, our community is being forced to accept the risks for an indefinite period without any decision-making powers at all. Why are we moving forward with a plan that has not been peer-reviewed by anyone other than Edison's experts or their captured regulators that have arbitrarily approved long-term storage at San Onofre? How can Edison be made to be more responsive to our needs instead of doing things that are putting us at greater risk? What approval power can we demand as a community? Will our city council do whatever is in their power to make our voices heard so that we are better protected from the dangers of nuclear waste? Thank you.
Thank you. That will end oral communications part 1.
Could I ask that group, that seemed like it was an orchestrated series of presentations, if you could send by email to the city manager the list of your questions, because there were quite a few and it was kind of hard to keep up with it, and organize them by category, like natural disaster, canister, whatever, makes sense to you. But if we could have a summation of the questions, that would be terrific.
I just want to read in the record a note that Dr. Victor on the CEP, who is the chairman, has been working with Gary on getting these put in. This is a response to the email that was sent to the council. I just want to read the record because I think it's something that's important. These are questions that I think deserve an answer. Many have been answered, obviously not to satisfaction, or at least until, obviously not to the satisfaction of the group that read the questions. And so, this is the note that was sent out in response by Dr. Victor. Says, Gary, thank you for your note to San Clemente City Council. I write to clarify the procedure that we're trying to follow here since this has been discussed in detail in the CEP. And I see from the note now you're asking to get another group involved, that's us. And the implication the C has somehow been stolen while in the process. And I think it'd be further from the truth. I'm very keen to help members of the community ask and get answers as many pertinent questions about the current and future risks and operations of the Song site, especially questions that relate to ongoing earthquake and tsunami risks, as well as questions about the management of spent fuel, until we all find an expeditious way to get the spent fuel out of here. We have the advantage here in our communities of access to some of the world's leading experts on these issues, but to get useful information from these experts, we need to get organized. I've asked you and your colleagues to help us do that. Prepare a list of questions that are relevant and reflective of community concerns and put them into categories. Some questions go to earthquake tsunami experts we can tap. Some will go to Edison. Some will go to the makers of the pads and canisters where spent fuel is stored. Some will go to the general contractor that Edison has recently hired. As a testament to the seriousness in which the CEP has treated these issues, at the last CEP meeting we had more than an hour presentation discussion led by Dr. Neil Driscoll, one of the world's leading experts on seismic risk and leader of a team that has done a massive new assessment of the seismic risks for all of coastal Southern California, including Songs. Just a day before the meeting, you sent me a 4-page single-space list that was a good first draft of questions, but the list does not, as far as I can tell, reflect any broader public process, nor is it organized in a way that can elicit efficient, factual answers from different groups. So I've asked you to help us in organizing transparent public process that solicit as many questions as possible and get them organized so we can get answers. I, along with the rest of CP leadership, that's including myself, are very keen that this process be inclusive and responsible as possible to help provide an even deeper community engagement, richer information. So please help us get that done, starting with the first draft rather than a broader public input, and rather than rushing to get responses on an incomplete first draft. We are seeking your help. There's no practical way for all of these different experts to react to 4 single-spaced pages of questions, some of which have already been answered from every member of the community. We're asking your help in enlisting a deeper and fair and transparent process and seeking out the full gamut of appropriate questions people want answered. And with that list in hand, I'll make sure we have similar serious process getting answers with the best technical input. Let me reiterate that Neil Driscoll has offered to sit down with folks, anyone in our community, and discuss the technical literature and assessments sometime soon. And having a well-reasoned and broadly representative list of questions would help in that discussions. And he was copied on this email as well. I also promise that if we can get answers to these questions, we'll put them on the Song's website, link it to the city page. I feel like most of the questions that asked here have been answered, and perhaps it's because we don't have them in a single space on the website that maybe the questions keep coming up. But I think that people deserve to get the answers to these questions. And so if we can somehow get working with Dr. Victor and Gary and San Clemente Green to get this narrowed down a little more sharp, and then get those asked and answered in a way that at least we can say that the information is out there. Maybe at the end, I don't know if we'll get total agreement because that sounds like we're really far apart, but at least we can make sure that we are trying to get it organized and correct so that the public can benefit from it. So that's my only comments on it.
Could we have a motion to waive reading in full of all resolutions and ordinances?
Second.
Motion by Ham, second by Brown. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
Closed session report, city attorney.
There was no reportable action taken.
All items listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion without discussion unless council, staff, or the public request removal of an item for separate discussion and action. I have not received any requests for removal.
Okay. Chris? Lauren?
G, H, and J.
Say that again, G?
G, H, and J.
Okay,
Do you want a motion?
nothing? Okay, is there a motion to waive the balance?
Move the balance.
Second.
Motion by Doncheck, second by Brown. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Okay, item G. Wing it.
On item G is about the bid rejection for the reservoir. I was just wondering, you were going to go ahead and put it, you're talking about extending it out to back out with the second reservoir. And I was just wondering if the scope of work in the second one was going to be similar, same as the one in the first, or is it additional type of scope?
It will be a little bit different type of scope. On the second reservoir, we're looking at putting in some mixers. So we'll have to evaluate whether we actually want to bid this project as part of that project or just rebid it separately.
Yeah, because my concern was that we had bidders in that fit that area for the tight numbers, but then we expand the scope and all of a sudden, we're gonna have maybe have someone above and then spread it out and just add more in between as far as cost goes.
Yeah, well, you'll have the sub markup, so we'll
Yeah.
take a close look at that before we go back out.
Okay, that was it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Do you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll move that we reject the item G, bid rejection, reservoir number 8. We reject the public bids received on October 12, 2016 for reservoir number 8, interior coating project number 15408, and direct staff to rebid the project.
Second.
Motion by Swartz, second by Brown. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
Okay, now on item H, the contract award to Avenida del Presidente, the water line replacement. I just wanted to make a comment on our bid process. And I noticed that we had one actual San Clemente contractor as part of the bid. He wasn't low bidder. But a lot of cities give some type of preference to a local business to try to keep our businesses doing the work locally. Quite a few of them may do like a 5% preference. And so I was wondering if that's something we can consider maybe adding into our bid process to encourage local businesses to be able to maybe have an advantage in getting a job.
Mayor and council, we've never looked at that. It's possible to do that if you show the dollar for dollar what the city's getting back out of the credit comes to the city. So certainly you can do that for the extent of local sales tax that's coming back. But if the council wanted to agendize that, we've got some reports on what possibilities are out there. We could get you that in the city manager's memo, and then you could put that back on the agenda if you wanted.
Yeah, great,
Is
thank
that
you.
the best way to start?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what we'll do.
Yeah, in the meantime,
My understanding is I believe the city does that now for supplies, but I'm not sure. I know we don't do that for public contracts, and we'd have to look at state laws and legislation to see if we could do that or not.
Did you say supplies? Oh, local.
Correct.
Oh, for suppliers. Local
So, supplier,
suppliers.
yes,
I
local.
see. Okay. Interesting. Okay.
All right, so I'll move for item H, contract award, Avenida del Presidente waterline replacement.
Is there a second? Motion by Swartz, second by Doncheck. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
And the last item I pulled was item J, contract amendment, laboratory services. There was the contract additional extension, but I noticed we're going to hire a staff. Are we reducing the cost of the extension when we're going to also have hired staff on payroll, or is our overall cost going to be going higher? So,
The additional staff member will ultimately lower the cost for the professional services, but we're going to have a time period. We just hired a new laboratory specialist, and it will take about 6 months before we can get the lab certified. And then at that time, we'll be able to run most of the treatment plant testing in-house, but we'll still have to contract out for most of the water tests at that time.
But what I read is that we have, we're bringing in-house one additional person who's going to be taking over, but is the cost that we're still maintaining on the outsourcing going to be the same, or did they reduce their rate based upon how much the in-house person is going to be able to accomplish?
Their rates won't lower, but the overall costs for outside services will reduce because we're going to do a lot of those tests in-house.
Okay,
if that
so
makes sense.
it's per test we're getting charged, or whatever I saw a number there, but that number is just a budget number?
It's a budget number. They're paid per test or hourly rate on those tests.
All right. Then I'll go ahead and move for item J, contract amendment for laboratory services.
Second.
Motion by Swartz, second by Brown. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is report from the Assistant City Manager concerning the scope of services for the request for proposals for ambulance services.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. Eric Sund, Assistant City Manager.
Would you mind if we did the housekeeping?
Yes,
regarding-
and so we're going to pass out a letter that was received from the Orange County Fire Authority that indicates that they will not be submitting an RFP for ambulance service as part of this process, and so that was a component that we wanted to obviously talk about with regards to voting, so if you want to go into that.
Yeah,
Scott, just-
thanks, Eric. Chris, do you mind if I just jump in? Councilmember Ham consulted with me before on this. He works for the Orange County Fire Authority in a role that's completely segregated and differently managed than the role of the ambulance services that are contemplated here. Yet, he wanted to know if he had a conflict of interest under the Political Reform Act or Government Code Section 1090, which would prohibit him participating in contract on the city side that might be formulated with the fire authority. The way things have developed, well, first off, under the Political Reform Act, Councilmember Ham's income is public income, and it's excluded from the auspices or the control of the Political Reform Act. So that one was easy. The Government Code Section 1090 question hinges upon whether the fire authority is interested in this contract or in its formulation. And when we got the letter from the authority confirming that they're not interested in continuing as incumbent nor bidding in this franchise process, that means that they're not going to be involved in formulating a contract. And so Chris, in consultation with us, decided that he can participate, and we've concluded based on this letter that that's permissible. So just wanted to get that on the record. He has to disclose that. I did it for you, Councilmember, before the kickoff. So thanks, Eric, for that interruption.
So kind of going backwards a little bit in time, we had a seasonal ambulance, and council kind of said, you know what, we have more of a need than seasonal. So we did a pilot program bringing on one full-time private ambulance carrier for a one-year period. That one-year pilot program ended November 2016. We reported back to council before the end of the calendar year with the results. Council directed staff to draft an RFP, come back to council for some input on the RFP, and also approval to release the RFP. And so what I have before you tonight is more or less the guts of the RFP from a scope, performance, control, personnel standpoint. If you reference attachments 1 through 8, Those would be dropped into our RFP template pursuant to any direction or input council gives us tonight. And then if approved, we would post the RFP in the next couple of weeks, and it would go through that process, and then we'd have an evaluation process, and we would still be coming back to council at a later date, I suspect between 45 to 60 days for a recommendation of award. And so with that, you know, we've covered general provisions, personnel requirements, response time, standards of performance, supplies, equipment, and vehicles, control, emergency on-scene procedures, and disaster assistance. So I feel those are the kind of the core elements of the service. And so I really am looking for council direction or input to those terms.
Chris?
Yes, I'll start the show on this one. Just to refresh everybody's memory, and Steve, for the benefit of not being here, I'd say an extensive background in this area. So I worked for both private and public ambulance entities. I worked for our ET program here in the city for multiple years, so I have experience not only for this community, but also working for Huntington Beach for their fire department ambulance program. And then I worked for one separate private ambulance company as well in the past. So I have many years of experience, and obviously I work with these folks day to day, so I see, you know, what's going to best suit our community. So what I've done is I've gone through the agenda report that Eric has provided us, and I've made some changes. The first thing I'm going to do is pass out this real basic sheet here that just shows outline some of those changes that I'm going to be asking from you folks this evening. Nothing's too crazy. Probably the biggest change that I'm going to recommend right off the bat is if we skip ahead to page 37-17, and it's the
8A, or, I mean, page 5, 7.
8A, 17.
17, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So at the top there, it's turn call penalties. So for me, this is one of the biggest issues that I have with privatizing public service. And so when you discourage people from calling what I would call the closest resource in order to get out of a $1,000 turn call issue, I think we need to eliminate that right off the bat. So right here, this in itself, for me, justifies why emergency service needs to be for benefit, not for profit. And this to me just says the exact opposite. So I'm going to ask that we strike that from it. So essentially, to give you an example, what this would do is with the $1,000 turn call penalty, let's just say that our local ambulance contractor has a unit that's available and they're coming from the Y. And Mr. Source is having a heart attack. And so instead of calling Care Ambulance, who's located in Dana Point, they say, well, wait a second, we're going to infer a $1,000 charge. We have a unit available, it happens to be at the Irvine Spectrum, but let's call it in instead. And so that just creates a situation that's not best for our residents or our community. And so I think that we need to scratch that entire section there.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't, just help me understand what that is again, explain it again in a different way.
So essentially, we're going to contract with an agency to provide our ambulance service, right? The turn call penalty says that, hey, if you have the inability to run this call, and you have to make a phone call to another agency to get them to run the call for you, we're going to charge you $1,000 because you haven't done your job to appropriately staff our community. And so, you know, being that emergency incidents aren't, you know, you can't plan for them, that's going to happen not frequently, but it will happen occasionally. And when those times happen, I wouldn't want my family treated that way to ensure someone doesn't get a $1,000 fine. Does that make sense?
So this is an economic disincentive for them, right?
Yeah.
It's designed to force them to provide a certain level of service.
Yeah.
Okay, and so what you're saying is remove that because you don't want a company making those decisions. Well, it's going to cost $1,000, so I'll just go ahead and reroute this way. What is that use? Is it designed to keep ambulance companies frosty, or what's the purpose usually of those?
You know, I think in this circumstance, the reason it was designed was if we were going to say, hey, we want to go with one ambulance in the city of San Clemente, right? We want to make that work. And let's say some bidder comes in and says, we can do it with one, right? Well, yeah, they can do it with one, but 50% of the time they're going to have to make a phone call to someone else to get someone, or we're going to have a delayed response. Does that make sense, Tim? Mm-hmm. Okay. So it's essentially turning the clock back 15, 20 years when fire departments would handle their own jurisdiction. So when we had San Clemente Fire Department, they would handle all the calls and they wouldn't wait, they wouldn't ask for resources or help. Now we have boundary drops and things like that. So not only does the OCFA service the citizens for the residents of San Clemente, but so does Camp Pendleton Fire Department, so does Laguna Beach Fire Department. We send the closest resource every time. And this pushes that clock back and says, we're going to disincentivize that opportunity. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so basically, we shouldn't discourage them from finding a resource that can get there faster.
Exactly. That make sense?
Yes.
Sorry.
So, does anybody have any questions? I can go over these one by one.
I'd like that, actually.
Okay.
I think it's helpful to understand, because I
Yeah.
wouldn't have, I read this and I
It sounded.
didn't even think about that.
Okay.
So, we'll just start with this. So I just, to make it easy, why make changes? So I just wrote in here, emergency response is a life and death profession that requires set standards of equipment to ensure the best possible outcomes, right? So to ensure those best possible outcomes, we have to start with the highest quality equipment. So the changes that I'm recommending are in 3 categories. It's equipment, staffing, and personnel. So the first one in equipment is very basic. This thing is pretty generic the way ambulances are constructed and run. The first one is the size of the modular box, and I see Kara in the background there. And a perfect example is this: is the majority of Orange County right now just resort to what I would call undersized boxes, and so it inhibits the ability for the paramedic and the EMT to work efficiently and effectively on patients in a decreased size space. And so historically, the city of San Clemente has always utilized larger box ambulances. That's what CARE is using right now in the city of San Clemente. That's what the OCFA is using right now. So I just want to ensure that whoever bids on that brings forth that same quality of apparatus that we've been using in our community for the past 30
Does that, where in the RFP?
It's not in the RFP.
At
so
all?
this is-
So you're adding it?
Yeah, you're
okay.
asking it for it to be specified.
Yeah, and we can go through and I'll show you where I want to add this later. I was just going to go by these line item by line
That's
item.
fine, that's.
Yeah,
next-
so basically, we want apples to apples as far as our current surface is.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And the interesting fact of that, Steve, is that normally I wouldn't even have brought this issue up, but being that the whole rest of the county has gone to these, what I would call substandard ambulances, I want to ensure our residents don't get that same substandard quality of care. The next one is, it's very basic, so this is the standard, what I would consider the standard in EMS right now, and I just want to ensure that whoever comes forward isn't going to give us bare bones. They're going to come forward with it, and that's automatic gurneys, track stair chairs. So the first one's easy. Automatic gurneys lift patients up to 700 pounds, and so that's
I
something
agree.
that you have to ensure longevity and not only your crews, but
Oh, finish, and I'm going to ask you a
I can
question.
stop it.
Oh, so what's your view on inspection of said ambulances? You know, because we saw that slideshow when we went up to testify for the hospital. I think it was the agenda item before ours, and it was these, interiors of ambulances that were in incredible disrepair, either missing key equipment or, do you remember
Dirty.
that? Dirty.
Yeah.
So do you have an inspection idea
so
that?
OCEMS
or
certifies
maintenance?
all our ambulances, and so that's going to be done at the county level, and they have to get accredited and certified at that
So,
level.
so even though we have this contract, so there is a standard there. All right.
Plus, I believe, wasn't there something in here about that their standards would be always evaluated throughout this whole thing? And, yeah, so because, doesn't that take care of this?
It
At least gives
It
us.
should, but I mean, the inspection process is always, catching those bad apples, if you will.
Okay.
So the automatic gurneys, that's that one. The stair chair one, we've had ambulances that have come from other areas of the county. And San Clemente being that's a very hilly area, we encounter a lot of stairs. And so this stair chair is a contraption that essentially is a gurney for stairs that moves people very efficiently. It's something that our community's utilized, like I said, for the last 20 years, so it's not anything different. The Optcom light system. So we've been at the forefront of the Optcom light system. And you guys are probably mostly aware of it. It's the little strobe-like flashlight that all the emergency vehicles have in their apparatus and turns the red lights to green lights. So it gets emergency equipment to the scene faster, and then it gets patients to the hospital faster. The last one is 2 portable 800 megahertz radios. So that's just a safety issue, and that goes back to the stair chair operation. So being that in the hillier parts of this community, you may park your apparatus in front of the address. It's going to take you 3 to 5 minutes to actually get to the location. And so for the safety of not only patients, but the operators, they need to have portable radios. And that's something that, like I said, our current, both operators operate that way, so it's not a change. So now it brings us to staffing and personnel. The first one is that I want to ensure that whoever puts a bid in is going to work the same schedule that our OCFA contractor works. So that way there's continuity in the crews. People can work together, they can train together, and they can deliver a more efficient program. That's been the way it's been in the past for OCFA. CARE came in during a transition time, so they've kind of been staggered differently. So we just want to rectify the situation when we move forward, whoever we choose with RFP.
Do you think that would be an issue with CARE if, would they be able to accommodate that?
I don't think it's going to be an issue for anybody because it's the same number of days. It's just
The way they stack them.
Yeah. The next one is just staff to the regular full-time employee, and this one came out with some of the growing pains we're dealing with the OCFA right now, being that we don't have all of our positions fully covered and just the issues that creates. The next one is
ability to do shift trades, and this is me just giving a shout out to the guys who are going to be working Christmas Eve, Thanksgiving, and all these things. And it's a very difficult thing when you have an employer who says, hey, your days, there's nothing you can do about it. You need some flexibility when you're working 48-hour shifts. And so employers have that now, and I just want to ensure moving forward we're working with somebody who's going to be on the up and up. There's something in the RFP that says this vaguely, but employees, being that they're going to be stationed in our fire stations here in the city of San Clemente, and by our, I mean the city of San Clemente's fire stations, just to make that clear, they work at the discretion of the station captain.
There was something in there already that.
And it was, and the way it's written is a little vague, so I just wanted to have that tightened up. And then employees are assigned to the city at the discretion of the OCFA or the city. And so that's just to ensure that if we get a bad apple, someone who's, not doing their training, not showing up appropriately, not responding appropriately, that we have the ability as a community to say, hey, they're not meeting the standard. And then the last one is a pretty simple one. It's adhere to the OCFA grooming standards, so we don't want someone coming in with, long hair and a beard.
You mean there are grooming? Oh, never mind.
Look at this, come on.
You've covered everything, I think.
Chris,
No
does-
beards,
Chris,
yeah.
does-
and you
does
never have to
having-
lift a thing.
Yeah.
Does having a staff with a regular full-time employee, is that the industry standard right now, or does he have temp workers sometimes that fill in? What does a typical ambulance company use for staffing, and does that, because what I'd hate to do is to make these changes and not have everybody qualify based on the
Well,
business model.
And so I talked that over with Mr. Sun before, and if there's something that, every bidder comes in and they say, this is ridiculous, we can't adhere to this, whatever it may be, then we obviously grant the flexibility to staff to say, hey, this is an issue, we need to take a look at it.
Well, let's clarify that, because we had something on a bid, I don't know, it was several years ago, where the RFP specified that the applicants had to have experience in a certain category in the last 6 months, and nobody had that experience, and so no RFPs were turned in, because there's not a conversation. It's like, the RFP is the RFP.
Yeah.
So am I correct on that? So if somebody was saying, I've got an issue with the grooming standard or whatever it is.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I'm kind of playing around with this RFP process is a mandatory bidders conference. So anybody that wants to participate in the RFP will have to attend a mandatory pre-bid.
Okay,
where we
that's a
go
good
over
solution.
this. And then at that point, the potential proposers, may have a ton of questions, which we would then answer via an addendum before the close of the RFP, so that they would know, if I get everybody that says, I can't agree with your grooming standards, then obviously I have to reevaluate and step back and determine what's going to be the best course of action, but there'll be plenty of opportunities.
You have a step built in there.
Correct.
Thank you.
And the full-time employees, just so you have continuity, or the same people that are filling it in that same professionalism?
Exactly.
All right, so I'm just curious, not knowing how the ambulance companies, how they staff and how they save money, I would be very curious to see what comes out of those bidding conferences. These all seem like they're incredibly reasonable asks, but, I don't know the business model at all, so.
And I think, in my experience from a procurement standpoint, it's better to ask for what you want and see what you get. I think, the only one that maybe, but I think it's still palatable is the shifts correlation to OCFA standards. That might be a potential problem for them from a personnel standpoint, but I think it's good to ask, because whatever can be mirrored within the station with all of the personnel will be a better kind of harmonious, collective group.
As someone that's been involved with bidding on service contracts for 20 years, it's quite often to have a mandatory meeting regarding bidders, as well as a time frame for them to turn in their questions.
Correct.
To be reviewed. So we can get feedback, or staff can get feedback as to when there's really certain areas that won't work, and then we can give some area we can discover that they can maybe make some adjustments.
Absolutely.
Okay. So the last two things that I'd asked for is that, there's a few things. Obviously I don't think OCFA's had the opportunity to put any input into this, being that they're going to be still, I think, our primary emergency responder. And so if there's anything that I've maybe missed and they see fit an opportunity to put something in that's going to make service better, I think we need to allow that opportunity as well.
I think now that we have the letter on file that OCFA won't be participating in this, I think what we'll end up doing is drafting the RFP and then working with them to make sure that we got everything right, and is there any concerns on their behalf.
Perfect.
Yeah, it seemed that in their letter, they're basically saying they're just not going to be competitive enough to do it, and so I would assume that they would also be looking to have the best possible partner there to be working and give support. So I think it's a great idea.
Perfect. And then I think one of my last asks, if there's no other questions, is that, being that other communities, when they've done competitive bid processes, they have to establish a team that's going to make the decision and bring forth the final bids. I would just like to be a part of that team, I think, moving forward.
And so would I, since I deal with these types of bids on a day-to-day basis.
Okay.
One quick question.
Other questions?
I have one, Council Member Ham. So when you talked about the removal of the turned call penalties, you did not want me to strike the late report / late payment penalties, which is the second clause, correct?
No.
Okay,
Yeah.
just want to make sure.
And while we're at it, I didn't mention this one, but on attachment 48820, I struck the adherence to the OCFA ET handbook as well, just because that thing hasn't been updated in a while.
And then with that as well, just to clarify, for the equipment on your handout, those changes will be specified in attachment 5, which is equipment category. And then for the staffing changes, those will be affixed to attachment 2, which had to do with personnel. So we'll build those into that.
Okay.
Chris, you want to make a motion? I'm sorry. Is there any public comments on this? No cards? Okay, I'll close the public hearing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Here, Joanne, do you want a copy of this? Okay. Okay, I move that we direct staff to prepare and release a request for proposal to pursue an ambulance provider to furnish the city with services of 2 full-time ambulances along with ambulance overflow service on an as-needed basis with the recommended changes that we discussed this evening.
Motion by Ham, second by Donchek. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. And Chris, I'd like to say I really appreciate your expertise and your experience in not just working for the fire department, but for ambulance, because it is a different animal, and appreciate it.
Yep.
Greatly helps.
Okay. Thank you.
Next is a report from the Public Works Director, City Engineer, concerning the selection of San Clemente trolley signage and stops.
Great. Good evening, City Council. Jennifer Rosales, Senior Transportation Engineer. I'll be giving just a brief presentation covering the San Clemente trolley signage and stops. The City Council met in January, and this is the trolley concept design and colors that were approved at that meeting. This has been provided to the manufacturer for painting of the exterior of the 3 trolley vehicles. This next slide shows a mock-up of the front and the back of the trolley. Please note that the Friends of San Clemente logo will be placed on the back of the trolley. It's not shown in this particular in this graphic, but it will be placed at the back of the trolley, as discussed in January. And the front, also I wanted to note, in the front of the trolley, there will be bike racks on each one of the trolleys as well. Yeah.
Those racks.
Bike racks where you can. There'll be one on each trolley. I'm not sure. I can get you the specs on how many bikes can fit. Yeah, I can get that spec for you.
3.5.
Yeah.
3.5.
So the ad hoc committee met in February, on February 14th, to review the trolley stops, the signs, as well as the route. I want to thank Councilmember Ham as well as Councilmember Swartz for your participation, as well as Planning Commissioner Crandall for participating in the committee. The sign, and actually I brought a couple samples of what the actual size might look like. The sign uses the brand that's placed on the side of the trolleys. So this would be at each stop, along with underneath it, another sign showing the stop ID number as well as the name of the stop. And then it also shows the route, so riders know, where they're at, and you look at the number and actually look at the route and see where they might want to go. And then it'll also include where to download a trolley tracker app, so you can track where the trolleys are in the system and be able to hop on and see, and it helps with driver waiting times too, in case some of the vehicles do start to bunch or not, and to try and maintain that headway. So this is an actual mock-up. The committee reviewed several different designs that were prepared by RSM Design, a local design firm here in San Clemente, and this was unanimously the sign chosen for recommendation to the City Council. So this next slide shows the route, which is also the same graphic shown on the sides, a little bit larger, along with each stop and those and the names with each stop. In your staff report, there's a table as well that shows each stop. So during the meeting, the ad hoc committee discussed a trolley stop options in the outlets, and the ad hoc committee recommended one stop in the outlets at San Clemente. The two stop locations discussed by the committee for consideration are either stop option A in front of the Calvin Klein, and the next slide I actually have photos showing those locations, or stop option B just north of the Starbucks. And this next slide shows where if we're to stop at option A in front of the San Clemente, there is an area big enough for a trolley to be able to pull over and have vehicles be able to safely pass, as well as, or stop option B, a nice area where a trolley could pull in the shaded area there, kind of in that reddish color there, was where the trolley could pull over and then vehicles could pass as well. So the ad hoc committee recommends that the City Council approve the trolley stop signage and route and select one of the trolley stop options in the outlets at San Clemente.
Lori first.
So I like the design. It's very nice. The Mobility Task Force, when we first contemplated the route, the spirit of a few of the stops was to provide parking options. So the idea is we'd be taking congestion off the street. And so if you go back 2 slides to your outlet malls, not that one. That one. Okay. We had proposed Shore Cliffs parking, which is at the far left of your image, as the stop. And then the other thing that was arguably equally important was the idea of the trolley being on private property versus, being strictly on a public route was of concern to us. So can we talk a little bit about that?
I can just let you know what we I can tell you what we worked out, and Chris isn't here right now, but we all agreed. One was that we wanted the parking to be in the structure, to try to use that structure, which is right, that white thing on the right there. So we thought it would be good also if the stop would be more visible if it was in that spot, as well as the difficulty of stopping by Shore Cliffs, where they also have a queue coming up for picking up kids at certain times in the day. What we agreed to, what we require, is that the outlets are going to also save us. They're going to actually put in what's necessary for the stop, as well as there's going to be agreement that the city will control that, so they won't be able to change their mind down the road. So that the city has control of the stop, because what we didn't want to do is put the stop there and then all of a sudden they say, nah, it's not going to work out, so we don't want it, and then we would have to redo all of our mapping and everything else. So the outlets will have predetermined that they will agree to it, that the city has control of it, and that it works out better because it draws people to park in that area and not have to walk. It's a good walk from the parking structure all the way out to where it was originally proposed. So that was the entire thought process behind it. They were also talking about putting up materials at the stop to highlight areas that are along the trolley route. So it gives us more advantages that way.
In your discussion, did you talk about the longer-term possibility that the Dana Point trolley might be coming to the outlet malls or even the Laguna Beach?
We didn't talk, we brought that up. They said that they weren't able to, because of the timing between when they got theirs done and when we came online, they didn't do it. By chance, I was at a meeting that had the Dana Point Mayor Pro Tem there, and they want it. They want to get something done. So they would like to find a way to hook it up. So it's something we can get into the works and find a way that we'll meet up. And we were talking about maybe at the Metro Rail station. They may come down to it. It might be fantastic to do that because they would like to pull people up to some of their events and let them park down here and vice versa. So it's to their advantage as well as to ours. So yeah, they're.
Oh, so not the outlet mall, they would more likely hook up down at PCH?
Probably so.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Closer to them, less of a traffic. Because we also have the problem of the route can't be too far that you have to add another vehicle in it in order to make your time requirements as far as time intermittence between each car. So as you spread it out further, then you can't do it, so then you have to add the cost of adding another car. So we're thinking that might work out. They have to crunch the numbers, but that might be a way to work it out. Anything else?
So you're thinking that if Dana Point wanted to go, it'd be redundant going into the outlet mall?
I was just imagining all of a sudden we'd have kind of a Tri-Cities hub at the outlet mall, which is less interesting to me than moving people around San Clemente. But yeah,
nothing's in stone. So
right, and this could change if it doesn't work out after the first year, I guess.
I think, Lori, we had contemplating putting that stop at the Shore Cliffs.
Right, yeah.
And I think part of that is for the parking for folks who go to the beach. So say you want to go to the beach down at the pier, and you don't want to deal with the whole pier bowl parking item, then you could potentially have parking over Shore Cliffs as more of a public option. I think with the outlet mall giving us those guarantees of, they won't mess with us and give us some ability to do that, then I think that may satisfy my concerns about doing it at the outlet mall. And then I would also, just to kind of throw that out there, option B seems like it is in the middle between two big parking lots. So if you had beach parking over on, say, the top or bottom of the parking garage, a little bit closer to every side to the Starbucks, and a little bit more restaurant options and things that may be closer to B, at least the Starbucks, and the Rubies that are down there. So I'd lean more towards B, and I'm fine with location there as opposed to the.
Yeah, I am too, as long as you're assuring us that the outlet malls understands that the idea is that they're providing parking for people that are going to be visiting other parts of the community.
Those exact words were worked with them, and by the way, option B is my favorite one also. I thought being, first of all, right out in front of Starbucks, where people will be at Starbucks looking at the stop, seeing the sign for the trolley, it just promotes it even that much more. And then it is closer to the parking structures. So that's why I thought it would be a perfect location for it. And yes, we beat them in, we've over and over discussed it, and it's been confirmed more than once that they understand that
there may be people parking there that have no intention of spending money at the mall.
Yes, and they're fine for that because, if they don't get them that time, maybe they'll get them next time.
Okay.
So it's all part of their marketing structure too.
Okay. And did you want to weigh in on that aspect? Because I had another
the
question.
Outlet Mall? I think by what we've seen so far from them, they have allowed people to park there for, say, the San Clemente High School graduation and the Fiesta. They've been, if it's any indication, they have shown good faith in letting San Clemente use the parking. So I agree. I think people do want to go back and maybe have some dinner. And so option B, I think, is better. But I have a clarifying question. This ad hoc committee, did they only decide on whether it was A or B and not the other trolley stops? Was that done with the consultant in the feasibility study or the San Clemente Task Force?
So the ad hoc committee looked at all the stops and had the table, and they made some modifications to the original stops, but very slight.
Okay, does anyone want to talk about the stops? I mean, there just seems, we can't, or we can, okay. Well, right.
Oh.
Okay. I know this was all designed to try to get everything within 15 minutes, but there looks like there's a lot of stops pretty close together. And I'm just wondering why 1, 2, 3 stops along Del Mar. Actually, 4 if you count the Pier Bowl. I mean, that's not every 15 minutes. I mean, that's like every 3 minutes.
Well, you've got one stop going one direction, another stop going back the other
No, I'm
way.
counting 1, 2, 3, 4. 14, 15, and 16 is one direction, but 1, 2, 3, 4 is all north, right?
Yeah, and I think,
Okay.
I wish Chris was here. Yeah, and I think we were talking about it, and time to walk from one area to another area was they didn't want it to have to be too far for someone to be able to walk to a trolley stop. And
I think the middle of Del Mar, is adequate. I don't know, I mean, the traffic's so bad at the top of Del Mar and El Camino. I just think that's a terrible place for them to stop. There's not any curb space there. There's parking all in front of it. But this is my issue. Because there's so many stops along here, it's preventing us from having more stops further down El Camino Real. And I'm hearing from residents, they love this idea, but when they find out it's going to stop at Del Mar, they're like, why? This doesn't make sense.
And again, this was for the concept of if someone is spending the day down there and they're shopping, they're going to a restaurant, it's a haul from Ola Vista all the way down to Seville.
Right now, we have, our intent with our parking down there is park once and walk around.
Yeah, and
This just doesn't follow that philosophy that we've done all along with our parking.
except that it was to park over at the outlets and come over to downtown.
No, I agree,
and walk.
but now we're telling people don't walk. Don't walk Del Mar, which it is our walkable, it's what we want. We want it pedestrian down there. So that's just my thing is, I didn't know this ad hoc committee was even going to be considering the stops. I thought we only allowed the ad hoc committee, their purview was signage. So, I agree, looking at the outlet mall, that was something, because I know the outlet mall was interested in asking for that change.
Well, we
I'm just
talked.
not set on the stops.
Yeah, originally when the grant was applied for, we talked about the return being up, what's the street one south of Del Mar?
Cabrillo?
No,
South.
south. Yeah.
Granada,
yeah.
Granada.
That it would go up there and catch the senior center on the way back up the street, and then, so maybe it goes down Del Mar and comes up Granada? Does that help you?
You just don't think you're gonna get anybody over there. You'll get the senior center.
Yeah.
But there's really nothing else going on.
Yeah, I
on
guess,
that street.
yeah, nobody would know to go over there, yeah.
The only thing that would be nice is it'll grab a little bit more of ECR.
See, that's what I'm talking about, is there just looks like there's a lot of stops. I don't know why we have one on Hermosa at Sea Summit when they could walk to the outlets and pick it up if they wanted to. If the home's there, they just walk across the street. And then another one between North Beach and then, I kind of get Los Molinos, but I don't get El Portal. And then Mariposa right after it. One of those, I think, has to go. And then Palo Zada again. So we have all these serving in North Beach area, but nothing to southeast and southwest. And I think those are the people that are going to want to jump on. I just think we're limiting it too much, and there's too many stops.
Are you saying to send it farther down south?
I would like to see it go down south for now and see if it's utilized and residents do use it.
We probably would need the consultant then for this, because we looked at all sorts of different routes, and this is the one, we have that,
The ridership.
the ridership hurdle that we
Right,
have to get over to
right.
get to year 2. And so the recommendation from the consultant was start with a tight footprint that's going to ensure
I know.
you volume, see how it works, and then push out from there.
I just
That
thought if we
was the
could just
main-
go.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was the main thing, is to get to the Pier Bowl and out.
It is, but
and-
I would
and-
say it's too many stops then on busy street, and I don't think Del Mar needs 3 stops at every bookend.
Well, you know what, it's an interesting question, because it's not necessarily travel from point A to point B. Like, for example, you don't expect someone at Seville to jump on to go to Ola Vista, right? That's not how it's contemplated. I think what happens, you've got different collections of people at each stop. Like, that's the community center, right? Community center down there at the south area side there, library. Then in the middle, you pick up really the,
All the shops and restaurants.
yeah, kind of that
Either
middle
way.
restaurant area, right? I guess the question would be where, she's right about Del Mar, where at the top of Del Mar would you have that stop?
Yeah, so there's the 2 stops shown. It's hard to tell exactly from the map exactly where they're at. They are at existing OCTA, that were existing OCTA bus route stops. So they're actual stops that used to be stops. And so the one that's shown as number 14, for example, is on Del Mar itself, right after you go around the corner. So you could be coming from El Camino Real, taking a right onto Del Mar, and it's just after you pass the corner on the right there. And then the one shown as number 5, actually it's number 4, sorry, is if you're going up Del Mar and then you take a left onto El Camino Real, it's just past that towards the end of the block on the right. So those are the two locations that were existing.
It's almost reversed from how it's looking.
It is, and that'll be worked out as well. And
So they're actual bus stops. They actually have like an area where they can pull off and it won't cause.
they were existing they used to be OCTA bus stops.
used to be OCTA
Yeah.
bus
How long ago?
Um,
Recent?
October 6th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember a bus stopping in front of, say, the Sun Post or Schmidt's right there. Isn't that what she's talking about?
It's up on the,
Up on ECR.
it's up on ECR.
You go around the corner. It's not right at that intersection. You have to go around the corner. It's just towards the end of that block.
So by Granada. It's the next street.
Next street, yeah, exactly.
I'm going to suggest, this was what the grant was approved on essentially, except for that tweak with the outlets, so I'm going to
just
suggest
seems like there's
for
a
year
lot.
one. But
We
if-
can see. We'll see what people say, and if they complain,
Yeah.
they're eating smoke dust from these along Del Mar, all these frequent stops, then we'll know.
Yeah, and there's opportunities in the future as well when future grants come out to be able to show that
Even
this was
next year.
successful and then apply again to expand. So there's
Yeah.
future opportunities.
Yeah, and again, to reiterate, the one concern was that to qualify for the grant money was a certain ridership level. And so
No,
we
I
have to be
understand
able to
that.
show
I just personally I'm not sure who all the riders are unless they're parking at the outlet mall. I think we need to go a little further and pick some up, and I've always said that. There's residents that want to use this, so, we'll get through the first year and see.
My only suggestion would be is that the trolley signs are awesome, by the way. I think they look great. The community, you guys did a great job on those. The only thing I have is you got a lot of people who may jump off on the beach train who don't necessarily venture on the other side of the tracks, won't catch the signs, won't see the things, right? And so we may want to have some setup along the beach by the fishermen's, along one of those areas that says, ride the San Clemente trolley, right? And it shows the map on where you go, because it might be that people will get down there and not either park and not really pay attention to it and just enjoy the beach and never see it. So we may want to have something where riders of the beach train now know that they can venture into the town and take a look around for free, or people who are just coming on the beach trail maybe that may want to take a ride up to North Beach going that way. So I'm thinking that maybe we should have some map and kiosk or something up on there, maybe even with, initially when we roll it out, have a member of staff there handing out flyers, introduce people, talking a little bit about it. RSVPs could do that, but I think that would be great, because the folks off the beach train, some of them never even venture on the other side of the tracks, and so it may be something to help pull them in the rest
We
of
can
town.
set up a sensor so that every time someone walks by, it plays the old song "Free Ride."
That's it. Well, and that's one idea.
That's an idea.
There's an idea. It's about as nice. No, just kidding. But I think it would be a great way to get right, especially when those beach trains are coming in. People may want to take advantage now of something that's new, and it certainly would help with ridership numbers.
That's great.
And then I had asked it the last time this topic came up. We had the Walker Park, or the intern version of the Walker parking study done, updated recently. And Thursday is the peak parking challenge for the downtown area. And we talked about, could the trolley run on Thursday? And staff was going to get back to us with a point of view on that. Did you?
I didn't think she got the memo.
No, I'm sorry. But that's something we could definitely look at. Our grant, and we have a certain amount of money and a certain amount for the operating, and so we only have for our grant to operate Friday, Saturday, and Sundays. So to be able to operate on like a Thursday evening, that
Right,
would
could
be
you let us know what that
additional.
would cost?
But I could definitely get those numbers for you. Yeah.
Okay, and sooner rather than later, because if we're going to be kicking this off with a marketing program, I don't know, is this a shared sentiment for everybody in the council?
We all said it there that night.
Yeah.
We saw that.
So one other item I think that would be useful is rolling in, I don't know how much monies we have left for the grants, but we may want to have, I don't know, ambassadors or folks for the program, is that what you're going to see on Fridays and Saturdays is people circulating for their Pier Bowl lot, looking for spots. It might be useful to have somebody out there handing a map saying, hey, if you want an easy solution for parking, go park the outlets, grab the trolley, give them a map, say, you know, and navigate them away from the Pier Bowl up to those options. Maybe even the library, maybe, you know, at the top of Del Mar. Take a look at this, just consider this next time you come down. And just as a way of, because what you're going to do is you're going to get a lot of people who are going to be wandering there for 45 minutes, unpacking everything, and they may want to just try that the next time. So I think for a quick take-up, we may want to have some folks, you know, handing out things. I'll do it. I don't care, you know.
What a great community service project for a high school kid, though, you know, to be a trolley ambassador.
Yeah.
We could also talk to the DBA. They really love the idea of the trolley, obviously. And you can have little signs or something in every one of the restaurants and stores about what the trolley route, so people walk in and they see it.
If they would just put maps of where the parking is also.
Yeah.
With the same.
Yeah.
That would be great. Good.
So what do you need from us? We're picking B?
Right. The consensus is B.
Can we play music on the trolley? I'm actually serious
We
about
do.
that.
We do have it will have a microphone and a sound system inside. So if you wanted to hop on the trolley and
I was just going to say that.
I would be happy to MC the trolley for the first little while.
We know you sing off
For the maiden voyage.
No, it'll be driving people off the trolley. Be like, the trolley was great except for that tool who was doing the MC work.
Yeah.
No, but I'm just saying it might be fun also to have some, you know, some music or other things going on. It just to give that kind of vibe. It's gonna be great. You know, it's gonna be super great. So.
Can I make a motion? I move that we approve the trolley stop signage and route as depicted in attachments 2-3 of the administrative report dated March 7th, 2017, and on file with the city clerk. And I move that we select the trolley stop B as a trolley stop location at the San Clemente outlets as depicted in attachment 4 of the administrative report dated March 7th, 2017, on file with the city clerk.
Second.
Motion by Swartz, second by Dunchek. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 4-0.
And the next item is a report from the Public Works Director concerning the selection of signage for the Rideshare Beta Test Rider Program.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm Tom Frank, your Transportation Engineering Manager, and I'm going to give a brief report and ask for your approval of signage for this program. I'm also going to give some information regarding the current ridership for this beta test program. With me here tonight, I have representatives from Lyft, Debs Schrimmer, and Shaz. And following my presentation, if you have any questions regarding the operation or any questions for Lyft at all, they'd be happy to answer those. So first off, let's cover the signage issue. Lyft had consulted with the same consultant who helped us with the trolley signage, RSM, and came up with 4 alternatives. I'll present those alternatives to you real briefly, and we provided a recommendation in our agenda report, which is Concept 4. So the 4 include, wrong button, the first shown here. I'll just go through them quickly. The second, third, and here's the recommended concept number 4. Staff's recommending this because it follows our Wayfind signing program with the curved shape towards the top of the sign, and it also follows the color scheme of our current program, so that's why we're recommending that concept. So then covering the item of the slight modification for the name of the program, originally we were calling the program SC Ride with Lyft. In working through some of the bugs during the soft start with Lyft, SC Ride was not available as a coupon for the program, so SC Rides was. So just to be consistent with the name of the program and the coupon, we're recommending that we change the name of the program to SC Rides with Lyft, just for uniformity. Because we think a lot of people are just going to call it Scribes or whatever they come up with, the coupon name. That's what some staff are calling it. So we just wanted some consistency there, yeah. Scribes, right. And then...
What, the Trojans took SC?
Yeah, right. And then, real briefly, I just wanted to present to you and the public what the current usage was. This program started up, if you recall, last fall when the OCTA bus routes 191 and 193 were being terminated. And it was a really quick process. We entered into the co-op agreement with OCTA, or council did, in August. We went through the RFP process. We came back, council awarded a contract to Lyft on October 4th, and then with the good graces of Lyft's efforts, we were able to actually address the ridership when the routes terminated on October 9th. So I really appreciate Lyft's tremendous efforts to get this program up and running in such an incredible short period of time. We recognize that it is a beta test program. We've talked to them, I've talked to them quite a bit over the last several months, but it's the first program of its kind in the country, and OCTA, Lyft, and ourselves are learning a lot, and there are going to be some tweaks. So what we're going forward with as far as our official launch, we recognize that there are probably going to be some improvements which we'd like to consider, and we're having ongoing discussions with OCTA about the possibilities for refinements in the future. So I think that's it as far as my presentation goes. The recommended actions on your part is to confirm the program name to SC Rides with Lyft, and then second, to get your approval on a sign.
I just want to add, I think I've made it a point before, but I want to let you know that because of family circumstances, I have an soon not to be teenager anymore son who happens to be on the spectrum with Asperger's, and so he doesn't drive. It's just beyond his motivation right now to get that, and he was using the bus up until the last day to get back and forth to Saddleback College, or else he also works in my office, and so we were panicked. And all I can say is that the experience that he has had with able to get Lyft, and we were not too far from the route he used to go, so he's able to get Lyft, get to our office, or get to Saddleback. It has been seamless as far as his ability. He's been able to blossom, and he actually has more confidence in getting around or going places because of that. And I think that can interpret to a lot of our citizens, our older citizens, our whatever challenges that they may have, to be able to get around by us being able to offer this program. So I think it's a great program, and I'm 100% behind it.
Tom, I just wanted to thank you and staff and the folks from Lyft for doing this. I've been doing this it's been about 6 years now. Lori's been at it for a little longer than me. I don't think I've ever seen anything move this quick in government. I mean, I don't know, from start to finish, 6 months, from even the initial idea, maybe even less than that, actually, now that I think about it.
Yeah, it was in February. I mean, we were talking about it in Mobility Task Force. Of course, you came up with a great idea. Lori was very supportive and jumped right in with her OCTA hat on. And I remember the direction you said, let's see if we can make it work, and everything fell into place. Again, I want to really appreciate Lyft for their efforts, because they really showed their dedication to the partnership, and they stepped up and actually provided these subsidies while we didn't have an agreement in place. So it was a tremendous part.
It's fantastic. It's amazing.
On their part.
I know for you guys move lightning speed. For government, it does not work like
Right,
that. So it's literally a miracle that it happened. But I'm glad that it has filled a need for members of our community that may not have had an option otherwise. And that was exactly what it's designed to do. I think I would remiss, not besides staff and Lyft, also remiss not to thank OCTA for providing the grant, Lori for her leadership there, but also all the members up there who advocated for it and have given us this opportunity. Hope we can continue to make it work, that the ridership continues to grow, and that we can grow the program. I think we're at a very exciting phase, and I'm curious to see where it goes.
And building on that, Tom, you're very gracious to share the credit around, but you've really done a singularly excellent job with this. And with my OCTA hat on, this is a beta program, which means that there are no wrong answers. It's just continuous learning, it's improving, it's trial and error. And you've brought such a positive attitude and such a solutions-oriented tone to this whole project, so thank you very much. And keep it going, because it is a beta test, and the rest of the county is watching it, so it's kind of exciting.
Thank you.
I'll move the item.
I'll second the item.
Motion by Brown, second by Donchek. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 4-0.
Oral Communications Part 2, I don't have any cards. City Manager?
I just wanted to say that starting today, 6,200 notices have gone out to the residents affected by the BPIF lawsuit, so they should be getting those in the mail over the next couple days. So you do that.
City Attorney?
I've got nothing more to report tonight.
Council members?
So I have a couple of items. First, we received an email from the Swallows Day Parade folks. There's a group called the San Juan Capistrano Fiesta Association, the sponsorship chair for Swallows Day Parade. There's an amazing parade that our neighbors in San Juan do, and they're looking for some volunteers and to help with the 2017 Swallows Day Parade. They need help with 24 people to help carry parade banners, 20 folks to help be marshals on the side of the parade route to provide help in keeping the flow of the parade even, 40 folks to help with the staging area to keep participants organized and the start of the parade flowing. Need help with folks to pour and serve beer at the Mercado Beer Gardens. Need help with folks to help with traffic control around the streets of San Juan the morning of the parade. And if there's anyone that think they may be of help, even if the group requires a donation or payment, please let me know. Besides a big help in putting on the parade, all volunteers receive lunch, coupon for some sandwiches, chip, soda, and water from the Historical Society's Mercado booth. And if you want to help out, please go to the website. I don't have that address, but just do a Google search for 2017 Swallows Day Parade, and they have a volunteer link, and I'd welcome you to follow that. The last item is one that's going to be something that I'd like this council to engage in, just is more of an informational item, and I see this as being something a little bit more continuous as to a single event. Had an opportunity to meet with the TCA recently and spent some time going over the recent happenings, settlement agreement, routes, plans, and other things like that. And with all of the different cacophony of voices surrounding this issue, I thought it would be fitting for this council to receive a briefing from our staff giving us a summary of where we are to date. And I'm not talking in depth, but more of a staff presentation as to a follow-up from our October, I think it was October letter that we sent out about the different alignments. Then with the highlights of the settlement coming due, I'd like to see a staff presentation. I don't want to invite TCA down or anything, just a staff presentation of where do we stand in terms of decisions and timing and other things that allows this council to receive direction from our own staff as to really what we're looking at with the TCA, the toll roads, what are their plans, and ultimately, what will the next 3, 4, 5 years look like for the city of San Clemente if, in fact, the TCA pursues the options it now has on the table. I think we should start this conversation sooner rather than later, and I think it has to start here with this council and with our city staff. And then once we maybe have gathered enough information or we feel like we understand the issues, I'd like to start bringing in, the TCA, the environmental groups, and different things to be able to try and get some perspective on these items. And if there's discussion about alignments, then we ought to really notify the areas of town that are affected by the alignments and get their opinions as to the matter. I think that I know the TCA is pursuing a course which they have to pursue according to what's important to their interests, but I think we can also walk a parallel course with this council to try and figure out from our perspective what it is that we see it going. And I'd rather start that conversation a little sooner, maybe be premature, than start it too late and not be able to be heard in this whole item. So to start, I'd just like a staff presentation as to really what is going on and where we stand. Maybe present some of the maps that we've received to the public, and then as a council we could decide, how do we want to have this conversation going forward. So
I don't know.
And I support that wholeheartedly. I got an email today from somebody. It says, "Dear Lori, you are probably as anxious as anyone to see this toll road issue resolved." And it winds up by saying several neighbors are coming over and TCA is bringing an engineer and it's on March 15th and would I like to attend this? So TCA is doing kind of home coffees or, and this individual lives in Marblehead. So, I think it is time for us to get a really clear sense of what's going on.
I'm intrigued by that because in a weird way, and I know this sounds terrible, in a weird way, when we've written these letters, we've had these meetings, Kathy has done an incredible job of keeping us updated, but it just seems so unreal or surreal in some cases that it's hard to really put your mind around what the thoughts are now.
Right.
But I think that it's time for us to confront the reality of what we're dealing with and to do so starting here in these chambers, and then also making sure the public is aware as to what is going on, because I think what happens is it's like a flywheel, right? It starts slowly, but then it builds up speed and power and momentum and maybe impossible to stop. And so I think it's important for the residents to know and for this council to know really what's going on and ultimately define what we want as a community before it gets defined for us.
I agree with that 100%.
We kind of already defined it. We said, you were very strict on this. Any alignment through our city was not okay.
I think that yes, and I think we've all had stated concerns about this. But I think that new information is being presented to us every single day.
Right.
Alignments, the settlement agreement, things are happening that that we may understand, but it has to be put in context, and we have to have perspective, and we also have to know, do we have a voice in this process, or can it just be done to us?
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest questions that I have, is that ultimately in this whole process is how much we want to get the residents involved, but what can we do, if anything, in this entire thing? So I think the beginning, though, is a staff presentation. I don't want to get ahead of it. A staff presentation defining exactly what it is
Current
that
status.
The status is, and then ultimately from there we could decide a course of action. But what I don't want to do is to have one huge meeting, blow it out, and then as things become change, we never talk about it again. So I'd like to rather maybe take a meeting to talk about it, and then we can set a path forward as to how we want to talk about it going forward. Is that clear, James?
So you would like to hear what current steps TCA is taking, not just alignments, but what contracts they're looking at and dates.
Just a status of where we are.
Environmental.
Right, a status of where we are, and ultimately what dates are they working against? When is it that decisions have to be made, and environmental reports, and
What's the timeline?
what's the timeline, and ultimately what place do we have in that timeline? Residents. And when I say we, this council and residents, because if you've got the TCA having meetings and coffee, then we should probably also be having meetings and coffee. So, I don't drink coffee, but meetings and Diet Coke, right? So I think now's the time for us to really start getting the information flowing through us to the community, as opposed to, maybe waiting and seeing. So I'd just like to start that for the next meeting.
Okay.
And just, could you put it in the context?
Oh, it won't be for the next meeting?
It'll be tough for us to pull it together.
The staff presentation?
It'd be April.
Okay.
And could you put it in a county context, consider SCAG, regional planning, long-term transportation planning, because those are places where we might be able to raise our hand and make
Comment.
a difference. Yeah,
Make
and,
comments.
or make a change.
Yes.
Sandag
we're able to
also.
say our needs too.
I guess the question is, if we do that in a special presentation, are we going to be able to have that interchange, or do we need to put it on the agenda for a conversation?
Well, if we're going to have a presentation in Chambers, it's going to have to be on the agenda.
Well, no, I mean as like a business item. Okay.
We just want to schedule it as an update.
There's a social, well, there's a difference, and so we need to make sure we're doing it appropriately so we can have some conversation. But again, I don't want a 5-hour meeting where we're, could you imagine if, when we don't really have much to work on, so we probably need to digest it in bits as opposed to one massive outpouring. All right, thank you.
That was it?
I don't know.
You got any more?
If I sit here for a little while, I might think of something else to say.
One thing, I just wanted to get, do we have a timeline yet on the task force regarding the matrix study and our deputy level, and how are we getting that, putting it together? What's our timeline in getting that done?
I figured that we would get back to the council with the task force
Okay, I just want to know.
That's fine. All right, I have 2 items. First, I want to thank the Kiwanis Club for hosting the Mayor's Prayer Breakfast today. It was especially meaningful to me, I guess because I am the mayor this year, so I thought this was the best year. I just thought everyone was wonderful. All the speakers were great. It was just a great morning, and I have to say it was a great way to start the day. It really was. I would like to close tonight in memory of Don Bonanno, and Laura has a picture of him. We lost Don Bonanno February 27th. He passed away peacefully at his home in San Clemente. He is survived by his loving wife, Donna, married nearly 60 years, 4 children, and 9 grandchildren and 1 great-grandchild. Don was a great citizen of San Clemente. He loved North Beach, and he loved San Clemente, and he's going to be missed very much. Go ahead. I don't do it quite as well as you. Thank you.
Miss Don. That's a good man. So we'll do it in Don's name, and we'll adjourn to the next regular council meeting that will be held on March 21st, 2017. The council chambers located 100 Avenue Presidio, San Clemente, California. Closed session items will be considered at 5 p.m. The regular business meeting will commence at 6 p.m.